What's good, guys? It's your boy No Big Deal, and this is Creative Control, the podcast where we dive into God, music, and the intersection of creativity and faith. Today on the podcast, we have my friend and designer extraordinaire, RJV. Welcome to the show, bro.
Hey, thank you very much for allowing me to come on the podcast.
Straight off the...
Yes.
Okay.
Not a lot of people know that I'm Filipino.
Okay.
So I'm just joking.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Shout out to all the Filipino homies, you know what I'm saying? Filipinos, or as I like to call them, the black people of Asia, you know?
Hey, that's a good one. I'm going to take that one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use it.
You should.
Because I got that's the card that we needed. We needed that. we needed that card.
Yeah.
To have an official in with the homies.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
I got you.
Shout out to the Filipino homies.
All right.
All right. So for those who don't know our history, from your recollection, how did we meet?
Meet in person or?
Like, how did we start working together?
So from my recollection, I was kind of dabbling in CHH as a graphic designer. I was doing album art, and I was kind of doing like small things here and there with, I think, Stephen Malcolm.
Okay.
I think that was kind of like the area that
Yeah.
I was going in. A lot of independent artists.
Yeah, yeah.
Ironically enough.
Right.
And I think you just hit me up. I think just one time you DM'd me and said, "Hey, what would you do? Like, what kind of album art would you do?"
Yeah.
And I think, what was our first one? Was it?
I have no
Was
idea.
it MC Hammer? Was that
our first MC Hammer?
It might have been.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But then,
So you were doing Stephen Malcolm artwork first? Was he like the first person?
no, actually, there was a bunch of other independent artists. Like I call them like the independent artists.
Okay.
And so it was
Like
like
pure indie.
Beacon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Beacon.
Shout out Beacon.
Yeah, he had like a huge arsenal, and that's the one. And I was also working with Belief. So Belief in Fatherhood really put me on to a lot of artists.
I probably saw you from Belief stuff then.
It could have been.
Yeah, because I mean, I was heavy into Dream Junkies, heavy into
Same.
yeah.
Same. I was
Red
trying
Pill, Black Sugar.
Yeah.
Were you involved in that?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not at all.
I was gonna say that was it then. Okay.
No, but I did. I was just getting into Dream Junkies because I found out they're from California.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, yo, there's actually really cool Christian hip hop.
Yes.
Because
Shout out to Dream Junkies, man.
Yeah. And so, I think I saw their YouTube, like, Grab a Bar.
Yep, that's the one.
And I was like
the van, like them hopping in and out of the van.
Yeah, the van was probably my favorite one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then one time I was drawing, and Belief, he's the one that kind of got me on, and he was like, could you do some illustrations? And I think he kind of started to put my name out there. And so by the time you came around, I was like, yo, like my playlist, people are hitting me up from like people that I like. So, so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I think I was willing to do it for free, but I didn't tell you that. So I think I owe you some money. No. But yeah, that's how we kind of started. I met you.
Yeah.
At an indie tribe. It was with RG. You were there, Mowgli and DJ Michael V.
Okay.
You guys came to Memphis, and it was like a bar, like a back of a bar. It looked
for
like
a show.
Yeah, and it was like a
small
closet.
show.
It was
with the low ceiling.
Yes, it was a small show. I think only 20 people showed up.
Yeah, probably.
And I was like, why is this? Why is nobody here?
Yeah.
And that's when I actually met you.
Yeah, we asked for the smallest room possible in Memphis.
And I think only 21 and older could show up. Or, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't even think that joint was a venue. That was just somebody's extra room.
After the show, I was like, they're not coming back.
It was 900
They are
degrees.
not coming back to Memphis.
We enjoyed that show because we like had to fight the booking agent. Like, listen, we want the smallest room in Memphis so that it'll feel full.
Yeah,
like even if there's not.
Give me
that
the
many
coat
people.
closet.
Yes, and that's what it was. It felt like really grassroots. Like you know, you got to earn your stripes on the road and all that.
Well, Yeah, after you guys performed, you guys would like just sit on the side. There was like no back room. RG was on his phone, and I was like, oh.
You just get up from a seat and then go on stage. Yeah.
Next is Mowgli, and then he just like sit on the side. Yeah.
Okay, so you were at that show. Yeah. Okay, so let's back up a little bit for those who don't know you and your work. This is the designer behind album artwork, tour flyers that you see from me, merch that you see from me, and not just me, but John Keith and Indie Tribe as a whole, and many other artists in the space. Worked with Cray and Andy and Dream Junkies and Belief, and probably if you like a design and it's coming out of the Christian hip hop space, it's most likely RJ. If you don't like it, it's definitely not him. But yeah, no, everybody likes your designs for sure.
I'm glad. That's usually the goal.
Yeah. I just want to make sure people properly understand like who we're talking to, because you are kind of like, you're not in front of the camera a lot. We were talking about that. You like to kind of be.
Yeah, that's why I chose this profession specifically, because it's like, oh, I get my stuff out there and they like it. Yeah. And people rock with it. They wear the clothes, they wear the merch, and I don't have to be like all throughout Holy Smoke. I've been through all the Holy Smokes. And nobody knows that I did the work. Yeah. So it's,
you can just walk through.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. I don't have to sign autographs. I don't have to like, not to talking to people is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I don't have to talk to people if I don't need to. And my family is usually there too. So
yeah. So MC Hammer, we think that's the first one we worked on together?
I think so. That's the more recent.
That sounds.
I was going through your discography.
That sounds right though.
Yeah.
That sounds right, because another thing about you is you always do like a ton of different designs. Like part of your process is to take an idea from an artist and kind of just explore it from A to Z. Yeah, and then land on the one that like rises to the top. Would you say that's kind of like
it is? And it's great when I'm with. I have to caveat it because all my clients might hear it, and they're like, "Well, I don't get all those renditions."
Oh shoot!
So
just kidding.
For me, no. It's when I'm with another creative, it's way different. Like because I want to get there too, and most of the time you'll point out something that I'm also looking at, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know why it's not hitting it. And so it's going to bug me. It's like an itch. Yeah. So it's going to bug me until I get that finished. So that's why with you, it might be a little bit more unique. And we go through a whole bunch of renditions. Yeah. But I don't mind it because it's like that itch. I just need to get to it. So yeah, that's basically.
You kind of just dropped a gem for creatives out there who are listening. That's also part of my creative process now, which is, if you are trying to get constructive feedback on something you're working on, one thing is you should have people you trust who give you constructive feedback and who you have given permission to be real with you. Like, bro, this is not it. Yeah. Whatever. But also you have to like develop a thick skin, because as creatives, we're like, we can be a little bit sensitive about our work, you know? But one thing that can help that process immensely for me is like, listen to it or for music, listen to it, or for your design, you're looking at it. And if there's something that you're not sure about, send it to the people that you trust and just ask them to give all their notes on it. Right. Yeah. If their note matches the thing that you're iffy about, then you need to work on it and go back. And if their notes are things that you weren't worried about, then you don't have to listen to those. You don't have to worry about that was probably a stylistic choice, and you're like, because at first I would just send it to people and whatever they said would like weigh on me, like I got to change everything if they don't like this. But I'm
they hate it.
No, I like this, but I'm not sure about this. So I'm not going to tell you that
it's not that one thing that was bugging me.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you, do you think this is good or not? I'm just going to send you the whole thing. And if you say, this part right here I'm not sure about,
confirms it. Yeah.
It's confirmation.
Yeah. That's actually, I'm glad that you said that too, is because I think a Christian creative is actually, so I say creative creatives, right?
Yeah.
I say creative creatives because it's more of like
You're saying created
creatives.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's a tongue twister. But yeah, it's a communal thing. It has to be a communal thing, especially as a believer. We are the body of Christ. And so we have to do that. We have to work from a communal standpoint. And in order for these people, like you said, to speak into your life, you have to have a trust with them. You have to have value of their criticism. They know who you are. They know what the goal is. They know what you're all about. And so they're not going to give you something that you don't need.
Right.
So if they do give you some, criticism or even something valuable, like something like, what if I said, like for a musician, if you said something way out of pocket, they can catch that and be like, hey, that might not be received the way I know you.
That's right. Yeah.
But that might not be the way to go.
Yeah.
And I've started to learn that through, even in graphic design, I do the same thing. Like I'll put out something and I'll show it to my wife or show it to, other designers, and they'll tell me, they'll say, it's not quite hitting, and it won't match what you've done before.
Right.
And so they'll give me something just a small little tweak, and then I do it, and then they're like, oh, perfect. Nailed it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is a skill that, that artists like of any discipline should develop, is knowing when to take a note and knowing when to say, oh, that thing that they don't like is part of my creative DNA, and that's what sets this thing apart. This is what makes it design work from RJ.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to change that, even though I got a note on that, because that's their creative opinion.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I mean?
I'm glad you said that, because
yeah,
there needs to be an etiquette book
yeah.
for graphic designers and also the person that works with them, just because they might not know how to say that, or they might not know how to respond.
Yeah.
And also let them have creative freedoms too.
Yeah.
Because it is a little part of them. It's a little part of them. They stayed up until 10 o'clock p.m. and they've been working on this one thing, and you say, I don't like that. It's like, oh man, well, what was the point?
yeah. I don't like that is not very helpful.
Yeah.
Like, whereas if you say, you give a specific note about, some shading or the style of drawing. Like I was thinking more of like, from this era of comics, or, I was thinking more of like children's book illustration, or graphic novel, whatever it is. You give a note like that, then now you can do something with that.
Yeah.
Like either you can change it because you're like, oh, I see that vision, or you can say, that's not my style though. But I don't like that. Doesn't give you any information. You're just like, okay, I'm trash. Like I don't, what am I supposed to do?
That's why I think creativity, and even just the conversation like you and I are having, that's actually it's a small version. That's a life lesson. It's even a life lesson. Like if you think about somebody that that's going through life with you, and they say, hey, I've noticed you've been kind of doing something that needs criticism or needs some sort of like pointing out sin or accountability or something like that. It does have to have a sense of relationship.
Yeah.
Or even, I know you, and that seems out of pocket. Is everything okay?
Right.
That's like a life lesson thing.
And that's the thing. I know you because I'm actually seeing all these parallels now between collaborating on some design
I thought you were
work.
going to say your texts.
No. But like collaborating on on design work or on music and the life lesson, right? Because it's like, if we're just saying, I don't like that, or you should stop doing that, right? That would be the parallel, right? That doesn't really give that much information.
Exactly.
Other than, again, you're bad or you're trash. Like,
you're a trash person.
But then if it's like, okay, we started on this artwork together and we had a goal. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to do 1960s graphic novel, and I think this will be really cool because of this concept for the merch, which is how we talk about stuff, right? In that same way, in relationships, if you know somebody and you know the goal of where they want to be in life, you know who they want to be in 20 years, you guys have had those conversations, and then they get off track or off path from that, then when you're speaking to them, it's a very specific note, like we were talking about with design, right? It's like, hey man, I know, like, we've talked about who you want to be, who you believe that God has called you to be, who you want to be in 20 years, and this doesn't align with that. So what if
not
we,
it.
like, what if we make a little edit here? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, bars, man.
You going crazy? Now you were kind of preaching. I'm not gonna lie, you was kind of preaching. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, that was exactly. That's why it's different for a Christian creative. That's why. It's because of that. We see the nuances, we see the parallels of what life is. And it's by design. You know, pun intended.
Right.
So I mean, it's the way you think about the things and how you apply them. It really is kind of like a life lesson. So be a graphic design, kids. Be a graphic design.
Well, I was gonna say, like, has being a designer, has that affected how you view God?
Wow, that's a heavy question. Yeah, actually it does, because in the very beginning you're called that you're said to be the image of God. You've been created in the image of God. But period. And then you're like, well, why do I deal with all of this stuff? And so when I think about that and a creative, that's why I use that word. Because I used to have this phrase where it's like, I'm a creature created by a creator for creation, for others, for other people.
I'm a creature created by a creator for creation.
For creation.
Wow.
So I used to say that all the time. And that's where the created creatives kind of came from. It's just like a small condensed version of it. But it does affect how I view things. Instead of seeing like beauty, I see beauty in everything, right? I'm a visual person, and I'm inspired by other things that are artistic, which is music, dance, all of those things. But where does that come from? It comes from somebody, a being, and I know it's from God, and that we've been created in that image. So I think Mike Hale said on this podcast that, like, he sees God in all art. And in a way I do too. I think there's a lot of nuances that can kind of be expelled from it. But even to a non-believer, they can create amazing art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think, especially if we do that, if I see it through my lens, that's a believer in God, I can respect that. I can see it, and I see where they're going. I see even the pain in certain music. I see like what they're searching for. Even in their relationships, like when they write about like broken, like Taylor Swift. A broken relationship and seeking real, genuine love. Well, I know where love is. I know what love is from. So I can kind of speak on those things from a creative. So in a way, yes, I would say it's not all of it, but I do see God differently because of my my designing. Yeah, in a way.
I know, like with my art, like with music, I feel like year over year, like I understand God in new ways, like while I'm creating. Sometimes a song that I've made, a couple years ago, I'll hear it in a specific season that I'm in now, and it'll bring me to tears. And it's a song I wrote. I was actually talking to John Keith about that the other week. But it's like sometimes you're writing a song and you think you're writing this for the listener, and you are. But then God will use it later to speak to where you are, to remind you of his love and his care for you.
Yeah. That's good.
Are there moments like that for you where you have created something and it has affected you spiritually?
Not like an image. Mm-hmm. It's mainly from what came from it.
Yeah.
So I'll be completely honest. Holy Smoke, it brought me to tears.
Wow.
Because
Holy Smoke, the festival.
The festival, yeah. No, not just in
the song.
The song itself. I cried. When John Keith said I think it was just a place. So I just did the design, right? I just did the design.
You didn't just do the design. You killed it.
I did the design.
Yeah.
But my intentions was just to make something cool.
Right.
And to see all the kids, I call them kids because I'm older, but to see them being in one room and community and seeing that, and they're buying the shirts because they like the look of it. I mean, I'm proud of it. I like it.
You should be.
But to see them enjoying it and enjoying the music and it was not unsafe. Like, it felt like a safe place. Yeah. It was just really cool to have that. That it brought me to tears. So the first time, the very first festival that we threw together, and then like even to where it's at now, like I have to be there. I have to show up. Just because like I got to see that every time I go to. My wife can attest to this. Every time I get back from Holy Smoke, this is not a plug. They're not paying me to do this, by the way. But every time I come back, I'm like juiced. Like I'm like in the most inspirational, excited about designing. Like I'm so pumped. That's probably the people that come for me for work is probably going to get the best work during that time. Yeah. Because like I'm so pumped for that. But it's only because I see the effects of what my work could do. Yeah, right. And I think that to me is like probably more important. Yeah. That's been a dream of mine. Like that's why I wanted to be in Disney. When I first started, I wanted to be in Disney. I wanted to be a Disney animator. Okay. And it's only because of that, the influence. I wanted to be part of that influence, the legacy, the influence, the nostalgia. Right. And now I get to, but it's through this avenue. Wow. So I mean, yeah, I would say that time. Yeah, and anytime the invoice clears, that's usually what but for real, like that's why we do it. Yeah. I mean, that's why you do it. Yes. Right? When somebody DMs you and tells you like that song is important to me. Yes. That's why we do it. Right. It is for us and the one listener, but there's something special about somebody receiving that. Yeah, no, I completely resonate with that. I think to some degree, like one of the goals of the art that we make is real human connection, like embodied human connection. And so, I feel the same way about Holy Smoke, like for it to go from, ideas of concepts, when we're writing songs, and then it's like the more communal it becomes, the more beautiful and the more connected and the more grateful I am for my discipline. So it's like, that's so good, man. When I'm coming up with the idea by myself, like it's exciting and I love that. And then it's like when we get into the studio and it's multiple people like collaborating, then that's even better. You know what I mean? Then we move out to roll out stage and Chelsea's involved, and then you start being involved, and then we go to merch, and then we go to music videos, and like more of this creative family is involved. It's fun. It makes it way cool. And then you put it out into the world, and for that to culminate into hundreds or thousands of people in a room, like in agreement and exchanging ideas and appreciating art together, that's like the ultimate fulfillment. Yeah. I would say of like, it's close to worship, Yeah. I wouldn't say it is worship just because there is a reverence of worship. But it is, the close, that was a bar, dude. Yeah. Like the more it's communal. The more it makes sense. It really makes sense, and it has a lot of gravity to it.
Yeah. So yeah, and I would say that it may not itself be worship, but worship comes from it.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like you
soundbite. Yeah. There it is.
Like you are inspired to worship God more after Holy Smoke. Like you've seen more of his beauty, and when you see God's beauty, then it naturally your natural response. If you can see it clearly, anybody. Yeah. The hard part is being able to see it clearly with all of the lenses and blurriness in front of us. But if we can see his beauty clearly, which we strive to make Holy Smoke an area where in many ways you can see his beauty, then your natural response is going to be worship. Yeah.
And it's the same thing with in any form where the body of Christ is being highlighted, right? So even in your local church, while you're fellowshipping, that's when you should kind of be dialed in and see them as like, oh, I'm not just eating at a barbecue, which is a bunch of people I like. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do that. But when you start to kind of sit back and realize, oh, these are the people I'm doing life with. Mm-hmm. These are the people that I'm like being around and that know me. Yeah. And they love on me. And, like that's important. And that's why it does lead you to worship. So I totally agree with that. Very cool.
What you said, what that reminded me of is like that enjoyment factor of like you said, not just being at a barbecue, but like being able to be present in that moment of fellowship, right? That takes like being present, like really being here in the moment, because the thing that turns like a transactional, I have to eat, so like we're eating dinner and we're together, I know I'm supposed to, this is on my calendar, I'm supposed to check it off type thing, that turns that into a moment that might inspire worship is you being fully present. Like even if that is just like being appreciative for the taste of the barbecue itself, you know what I mean? Or the conversation that you're having with the people around you, it takes like being present in that moment. And it reminded me of something I read. I'm not sure where I read it, but it honestly might have just been on the internet, but it was profound. I think about it like a lot now. And it's that, that feeling of like complete joy as a child that we think about so much as an adult, like, man, I just miss being a kid. Or we even see kids that are in that state and we're like, oh man, to be a kid, you know what I mean? The quote was saying, it's not age that takes that way. It's a lack of presence. Like the reason that children are so, they are so awe-inspired all the time. Like they have that sense of every day being beautiful and feeling like I can remember feeling like a day was a million years when I was a kid. Like, oh, we're going to do this in 2 hours. It's like, oh, that means I have my whole lifetime before we're going to, you know what I mean? Like,
I have teenagers, of course.
Yeah, because you're just like hyper present when you're a kid. You don't have those anxieties about the future. You're not worried if you're going to be taken care of, provided that you have like a good support system and family. And so you're just present in the moment. And so I've thought about that a lot, because it's like, oh, it's not that I've aged out of that joy. It's just I need to work on being as present as a child. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I would experience that again.
It's funny because I'm going to be 42 in August, right?
I had to just stop myself from doing the Kevin Hart Don Cheadle. but just because it's funny, bro. Just because it's funny. All right.
Well, that constantly runs in my mind. Yeah. Right. Like I think of like, what am I leaving behind? What kind of impact am I doing that? And I do, because I'm paranoid about those things, or those run through my mind, I forget to be present. Mm-hmm. And so like, especially with my kids, like this past summer has been great for me because we've been going out, we've been together, we've been like present. And that has a lot to do with, I have to be there, not just mentally, but I have to like check out. Like there are times where I won't pick up my phone or something like that. And you have to be intentional. And presence definitely is, because you could be at a barbecue. Yeah. And not be there. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's another thing too, is like, not that you have to be vulnerable, but you do have to kind of let the people around you that care for you know what's going on in your brain, what's holding you back from actually being present. So, that has to come with fellowship and conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think that does tie to like the embodiment piece and like the festival piece, because it's like the music. And this is an interesting point. This is developing in my head right now, but there's like, I talk about this with John a lot, but a lot of times people are like, man, we love this song you just dropped. Like, this is going to fuel my workout, like, or fuel my like athletic thing, which is like, that's amazing. Like, I listen to music when I work out.
Me
like,
too.
It's amazing. We need that. But something inside of us feels like, dang, that's kind of all that it is. but I think now that we're talking about it, I think the reason it feels like that is because it's like, oh, that's like in the background, like of you doing the actual thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just background music for that versus
it's just theme music.
versus when somebody DMs and is like, I haven't been able to put words to my grieving process and didn't cry were the words that I needed to actually like grieve. Yeah. That's a whole different thing. And but I think the piece is presence. It's like they were present in the listening of the music. It wasn't just
background music.
Background for something else. You know what I mean? Again, it's
That's
not
good.
a diss to people who use the
Get
music
better,
to work
kids.
out.
If you're writing songs that are just like bouncy and cool,
But I mean, that's
you're right, and it's the same thing, because I mean, when I do work out, I listen to secular music, because I'm not really listening.
Oh, wow.
I'm not. I mean, that's just me.
Interesting.
I do listen. It's embarrassing on the music I listen to when I work out. Yeah. Versus
it's all Sexy Red. You just listen to Sexy Red back to back over and over.
I mean, no. I don't listen to Sexy Red, guys. But there is a...
Can we say Sexy Red on YouTube? Okay.
Sassy Red.
Sassy Red?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do listen to, like, when I do listen to podcasts, when I do listen to things where I am working, even if it's in the background, I am a lot more in tuned to what they're listening or what I'm hearing, right? Versus just whatever. It is different in your artistic, creative ways of doing things. You're a musician, a visual artist. I don't think anybody's like. I mean, I guess. Maybe we can apply it to that, like a billboard. Okay, you're just gonna walk past it. Oh, cool, advertisement. Versus
there you go, advertisement
versus like a Mona Lisa where you're looking at it, you're staring at it, or the Sistine Chapel where people their necks are hurting because they're looking at the thing. Yes, like there is a little bit of a difference, but
no, that's so true.
I feel like words are very impactful. Yeah, and so there is a bit of responsibility.
Yeah. That's true, but you did kind of just hit the nail on the head, because we actually last year we saw both the Mona Lisa and the Sistine Chapel, and it's like you're going on a journey for hours to stand in front of like bulletproof glass with hundreds of other people, and like maybe you'll get to the front, which is 50 feet away. The front is 50 feet away from the bulletproof glass to see like the Mona Lisa.
And then when you see it, it's like smaller than you expected.
Way smaller.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah. And the Sistine Chapel the same way. Like you go in there and it's like that presence thing is heavy with those pieces of visual art, because it's like you go in there. It's actually funny. It's like you go in there and what I wanted to do when I went to the Sistine Chapel was have this like quiet moment where I'm admiring this incredible thing with nobody around me, right? The reality is like it's hundreds of people in there, right?
But holding up phones
but the thing is, so they still try to, which I appreciate, they still try to create that moment of quiet and reverence, so you can't have your phones out.
Oh, okay.
And they actually tell everybody to be quiet. Like there's like men who look like Men in Black, like in like black suits,
agents,
earpieces. And they come over with Italian accents, and I didn't know you couldn't like.
Like no.
Yeah, I just had my phone out. I don't think I was taking it. I knew you couldn't like take a picture. I just had my phone out in my hand, and they were like, "Sir, put that up," like, you know. And they tell everybody to be quiet, and then you don't get as long as you want in there.
Be
and all
present.
That.
What are you doing?
Yeah, you know what I mean. So, even in visual like design, I think I would say the pinnacle of maybe is the pinnacle of art presence.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. In order for you to understand it and enjoy, you do have to have a sense of presence there.
Yeah.
You can't just like walk past it. You can't be like, or just like look at, okay, cool, and then just walk away. I think you have to be in it and to understand the presence.
So that's crazy because the implications of like content versus art, like because content or ads, like a billboard, you said an ad.
Yeah.
Drive past it, right? See it, I got it, clocked it. Content, you're swiping.
Or even the stories, they're like 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
What's the point then?
But that's very different than the Mona Lisa, very different than the Sistine Chapel, even very different than Mr. Morale. Like Mr. Morale, you don't put on at the gym, you know what I mean? Like Mr. Morale, like, you know.
You're right. I listen to, if any Kendrick comes on, it's gonna be Backseat Freestyle.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one of those.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be Mr. Morale for sure. It's not gonna be on there.
Yeah, exactly.
At least for me. I don't think it ever comes on.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. I mean, the connect. Look, we figured it out here on Creative Control. Like, there is the pinnacle of art is presence. You heard it here first.
Honestly, I didn't even
trademark that.
I didn't even know that.
We got to put it on a shirt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Presence. Art is presence. Art is presence.
Hey, we got to have this out before this airs, bro. Because you know the bootleggers, like with people actually bootleg your design work.
I don't know if you knew that.
You gotta let them know.
So we did our design.
Yeah.
And the day of, it wasn't like much later.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like until your album made, platinum.
Yeah.
It was like
we're waiting
right
on,
away. So. They put out bootleg versions of it from all around the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess it's free advertising.
Yeah.
But they look trash, by the way. Don't get, if I see you guys with the low swoop neck tank top that's says,
right. If you have a deep V, a deep V-neck that says the people we became, you got scammed.
First of all, you
got
shouldn't
scammed.
Be. You look like trash.
You know what I mean? If you have an Affliction shirt that says no big deal on it.
If you have shorts and it says the people we became on the tush area.
Yes. That's right.
That wasn't from us.
Yeah. You got scammed. And honestly, if you bought those shorts, you deserve the scam.
Babe, can you refund that? No, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't have that.
Oh man. So how would you describe, I mean, we've been calling you a designer, a graphic designer, but like how, like the whole scope of your work, how would you describe it? Like in your own words?
Like, I would just have to say, because the reason I came into this business working specifically with Christians, I would have to say, and this is for like the young RJ, I'm kind of speaking into to the young RJ because I didn't see it. I never seen anybody that does design and is a Christian and is open about it. And so I never saw that. So until I saw, I think Scott the Painter and like Adam Grayson, who had done some stuff for Reach Records and stuff like that.
Is Scott the Painter the one who does it live, like during music, or no?
I think he does sometimes now.
Okay.
But he's more of a speaker now.
Okay.
Than he does. But I just never saw that. So for me, as a graphic designer for Christian creatives, I said what I would say the scope of it is just be in tune with why you do it. Because if I didn't have that, this would just be like a regular 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I would just like, it would be kind of closed-minded on it too. This at least forces me to have boundaries and have safe spaces to be creative, because it's very easy to be a Christian artist, designer, and put crosses and put Jesus on everything, right? It's easy. Anybody can do it.
Yep.
There's Pinterest.
Yep.
And you can Google it, and it's easy.
Yep.
What challenges me is what can I do to kind of use double entendres, symbolism, metaphors into my design, and how I can be different.
Yes.
I don't want to be like, it's not a competitive thing, but it's like I want to be different than other designers than putting a cross. Yeah, there are times where I put a cross on there, and I've even used the dove plenty of times in my designs. But it's just creatively, how can we just tweak it just a little bit to tell the story uniquely, right? Like, so even storytelling, like if you're an author and you're a writer, what can you do differently to tell a different story? Because there's no story not told, right? Like there's nothing new under the sun. You know, there's always the anti-hero versus, you know, whatever. And I'm doing the same thing, but visually. But what can I do differently to be that way? And especially as a Christian creative, I think you have to be different. You should be different. I'm not saying you have to be different. Maybe that's kind of harsh, but you should be different.
Yeah.
Just because, there's so many different ways we can do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, unfortunately, you don't have to be different, obviously, because it works not to be different. You see what I'm saying? Like,
you're right.
Like, but we should, though.
Yeah.
We really, you know, like going back to, what was the phrase that you had? Creatives.
A creature created by a creator.
Created by a creator.
For creation.
For creation, right? Yeah. So like we should be, if we're created by the greatest and first and in a sense only true creator, then as representatives of him, as Christians, as little Christs, like we should be striving for excellence in creativity, for telling the greatest story ever told in a multiplicity of ways that will reach people who are as diverse as like creation itself. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whereas like, and we're not trying to knock anybody, but I mean, I think there is a valid critique and conversation of like, well, is that design or are you a like, there should be another word, like a merch seller. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're just taking an icon that exists and then you're deciding where that goes on a blank that exists, like somebody manufactured the blank.
Yeah.
And you're taking an icon that exists and you're dragging and dropping it on the shirt.
Yeah.
Are you a designer in the same way as somebody who is coming up with a concept and then creating within the bounds of that concept a new thing that hasn't been seen before?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I think it needs to be diversity.
Yeah.
I think it has to have a sense of diversity or something different.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're just copying, you're just forging.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what God did with us.
Yeah.
When he created Adam, I don't think he
right.
said, hey, let me just make a bunch of clones.
Yeah.
No, they're uniquely different.
Right.
And especially when now, you know, all different diversities and different cultures, different things that is involved into art, a bunch of nuances too. It has to be different. Yeah. So if you're being the same, if you're being like a carbon copy of something,
right?
Are you actually doing art? Right. Or are you being one of the V-neck?
Yeah, a bootlegger.
Yeah, are you being a bootlegger?
That's it. There you go. Because like the thing is, we can't create like God created. God creates out of nothing.
He's the ultimate
with no point of reference. You know, as Hillsong said, like he creates, out of nothing, right? And then as images of him, we take like the raw materials that he has put into creation, and essentially we remix them. Like we remix them, and we make derivative works of his initial creation. And so like, it's like everything is a remix, but are you remixing or are you bootlegging? That's the thing. that's the difference. Are you remixing or are you ripping something off?
You're speaking into something, and it's really funny. I'm not gonna say the race card or anything like that. But my people are known for bootlegging.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you noticed that, but
a lot of our
the reputation that has been So it's just funny that you use that, and then you said you're bootlegging. Yeah. I'm not bootlegging. No. I know what you're saying. Yeah. I know you.
Yeah. So I'm just saying. I think like creating from a human perspective is going to be a remix. Yeah. We're going to be taking something that exists in the world.
That's another T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be taking something that's in the world and rearranging and recreating it, put in a simple way, into something that has never been seen before. That's the goal, I think, of creativity and art. Something that hasn't been seen before or hasn't been told exactly the same way. You know what I mean? Or you haven't heard it exactly the same way.
Exactly, yeah. But
when you are doing it exactly the same way, then that's a ripoff. That's a bootleg. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, what is your actual purpose?
Yeah, and it wouldn't even take much to be different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've used references before all the time.
Bro, you can't not use a reference. Yeah. Like,
But as long as you put like a small change to it, it already makes it different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not hard to be different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think, I agree with you. I think it's almost necessary that.
Yeah.
That's one of the ingredients in being it. Yeah. Is it has to be remixed in some way.
Yeah. And that's another reason that I think it's important for artists to, with constructive feedback, to know when to keep things in that not everybody likes, because that's going to be the thing that actually makes the story different than it was somewhere else, or makes it a new thing, or you know what I mean, or makes it a new song. You have to know that thing that you're saying. I say this all the time to the dudes in Indie Tribe. There's stuff that they don't like, and again, if it doesn't match up with my note, or it's not a quality, if they're not like, no, this just isn't like up to par quality wise, that's different than
quality
I don't
control
like
is different.
How you did this, I'm likely to be like, okay, fine, I appreciate that, dope. I'm keeping that in because that's what makes it me and not Migos. You know what I mean? That's that's what makes it different.
Because you could do that. It's easy. Yeah. You could be the same. You could.
Yep. So many people do it. We're gonna do triplets. We're gonna do the deep voice, like rest in peace Takeoff. But now that you're not here, I'm a ripoff. You know what I mean? Like I'm the fourth Migos. I'm the fourth Migos, and my name is Ripoff. Like that's you know what I mean?
I love that because it is something that we fall into, probably not even intentionally, but we do that. But I heard it from this. I heard it from like that person. Yeah. And it was successful for them. That was another thing too, is because we see the results of that, and we see how many people love it and attach themselves to it, or they vibe with it, and that's what we want to do. Same thing with my art. Like I'll see somebody's art and I'm like, did you see what that did? Yeah. For the next thing that I do, I'm going to put that on there. Yeah. And 99.9 of the times, if I try to do that, it never hits. Right. It never hits. They want to review or redone. They want to give me another draft. Yeah, that's not it. Right. And that doesn't happen too often. But on the ones that I know vividly in my head, it's because I was trying to be a carbon copy of somebody. Yeah, else. We've
all done that. Yeah. So and it's another thing. Like you develop as an artist is like, eventually, if you are actually like telling stories, whether visually or sonically in different ways than what has already been put out into the world, people are going to start coming to you for your creative DNA. And then if you get led astray, this happened to me, you get led astray because you see the success of somebody else's creative DNA. Yeah. And you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to copy that. The same people who loved it coming from that person, they're not going to like it coming from you, because they're coming to you for your creative DNA. Yeah.
You know, like, what was that?
You know what I mean? Like, like you can, if
you drop the ripoff, the ripoff version of Dilly, or Dilly's ripoff. Yeah. People wouldn't be rocking. They'd be like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. I mean, just an extreme example to like kind of like prove the concept. It's like people may love Kendrick, and that same person may love Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah.
So that person's a fan of Kendrick and Taylor Swift. If Taylor Swift says, I really like what Kendrick's got going on, and tries to make a song exactly like Kendrick, like the internet is going to act like they like it. But the Kendrick fan is going to be like, bro, I don't.
Yeah.
Nobody
what are you
asked
talking about? Yeah.
Nobody asked you for this.
Nobody wanted this.
Like nobody asked you for this. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, you know, I like Drake with the melodies. I don't like that's what Kendrick is trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, but
that it's true.
You got to know your creative DNA.
And it's the same. It's for all walks of art. If you really think about it, if you kind of just sit back and think about what you just said, and apply that into food, into like a chef or something like that, or even into art. Yeah. Like if I was putting out a bunch of Mona Lisas, or like a replica of the Mona Lisa, you're gonna know that that's not what I do. Right. You're gonna be like that. First of all, that doesn't look like Mona Lisa. Second, RJ, is that your art? Right. So I mean, that's actually where I was kind of having a problem with my art, because I was told by the internet that you have to have a niche, right? You have to have a niche. And I was like, well, I don't have a specific style.
Yeah, you do have like a broad range.
I do, yeah. And so I'm like, well, I don't know. That's why I came up with the word collectives, because I was like, oh,
RJV Collectives.
Yeah, I'm just going to make a bunch of random stuff. And that's what it is. I didn't want to be RJV stuff. So I said collectives because it sounded cool. Right. And so that's why it's because it rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, why do I need to be like everybody else? Why can't I just be like this guy that does all types of different stuff?
That might be why we click creatively a lot, because I resonate with that. With like, there's like a lot of different styles that I like to pull from. Like I don't rap one type of way. You know what I mean? I appreciate hip hop as a whole. I'm inspired by like a whole gamut of hip hop artists and beyond. And so I think I'm trying to pull from all of those areas to have my own creative DNA. And I think my fans who are super tapped in, they definitely hear that and get that. People who aren't tapped in a lot are like, man, this guy is lyrical and he switches his flows a lot. Kendrick, he sounds just like him. And I'm like, bro, you would never mistake, like not like you're saying that, but you just don't know hip hop enough. Because you would never hear a No Big Deal song and be like, is that Kendrick? Unless you just like, your ears are that poor. You know what I mean?
Or you listen to so much Kendrick that's all you can hear.
Oh, and you're like, right, like the lens in your head is if it is like lyrical, polyrhythmic equals Kendrick. When there's so many rappers that rap like that. And they're very different. If
you're gonna say Dilly's like Kendrick, then you're gonna have to put a bunch of artists.
Like Jid, like you got Jid on your shirt. Like he is exactly what we're talking about. Like those two things also could equal him. But he doesn't sound like Kendrick, except to maybe a super casual.
And then that's kind of like what separates us from other artists. And even in genres, that's the same thing.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, you just have to know your like creative DNA. You have to know when to accept criticism, know when to appreciate the criticism and clock it, but say, I think this is what makes my art. You know what I mean? It's like, it's humility both ways. Because it's humility in being able to accept when, okay, this isn't up to par and I need to listen to these people. It's also humility into, okay, they're probably telling me how this might go up more or bring me more success, but I don't think that's my creative DNA. I don't think that's what God is trying to get out into the world through me. So I'm going to say no to that. I think that might be more commercial.
It is. It is humility. I mean, you're right. Because how are you going to grow? And in growth, it comes with humility. Like you have to have that. And if you don't, then are you actually growing as a person or as an artist even? Or are you going to be stuck in that one, at that one height, quote unquote, height? And then you're just going to stay there because all you're doing is catering to that height. to that thing, and you're not willing to budge from that.
Right.
You're not.
And your main goal is just being people talking about you. Again, you're not like tapped into what is God trying to get out into the world through me. That's what I try to think about.
Yeah.
Because biblically, there were people that he chose, prophets he chose, apostles that he chose, that he wanted to get specific things out into the world through them, regardless of if anybody listened. He would tell prophets, I need you to get this message out. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, nobody's going to listen to it. Yeah. Nobody's going to listen to you, but I need you to stay on this assignment. You still need to do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Now, what if they would have been like, man, I see this prophet over here and he's telling everybody they're going to be okay and everybody loves him. So I'm going to jump ship and do that. You know what I mean? That's like the equivalent.
Shout out to Jonah.
You know, yeah.
Shout out to Jonah who tried. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's actually true.
You're right, because if you really think so, if you think about it, and it's not anything revolutionary, but has God ever used anybody and not humbled them?
Oh, wow.
Has that never happened? Wow. Has it never happened?
Wow.
Or maybe one time. Or
no. Well, what I'm thinking is, I think like going off of that idea, anybody who has been used by God and come in agreement with God has been humbled. So there have been like people who were acting evilly that he worked out their evil for people's goods who were not humble, like Pharaoh.
Yeah,
Pharaoh wasn't. You're
humble, right. You're right.
But he used the evil that Pharaoh was putting out for the good of his people, right? Yeah. But everybody who was in agreement with God and counted as one of his people,
then he saw it through them. He saw it through
had to come through humility.
Yeah.
Yo, you're transforming this podcast, man. This is like. This is not what. Yeah, this is not. I mean, I had my pastor on last episode, and it wasn't as many sermons.
Well, I was actually kind of intimidated by that. Actually, I was like, "Oh, geez, I have to follow through that." Goodness, but no.
So you prepared? You were like, "Okay."
No, I didn't. I told my wife this morning, I'm very nervous about this podcast.
Yeah, nah, man, we're chill over here.
No, that's cool. But you're right. It's such a. I mean, that just shows that being a creative and even gospel.
Yeah.
They go together.
Yeah.
In the Christian, I think you could be creative and not have Christianity.
Yes, absolutely.
I've seen that
100%.
And people do well.
100%.
But
there's many.
Yeah, but I think if you want,
they make beautiful art too.
Yeah, they make beautiful art.
Yep.
And very creative.
Yeah.
Probably the most creative I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But I think if you are going to be a Christian, and you are going to be a creative, though the gospel has to be involved in some way.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
That's my 2 cents.
And just a side note, I think that the reason that people who don't believe in God and who are not Christians still make some of the most beautiful art is because they still have the image of God in them. Yeah. They still have the capacity to tell the beautiful story itself, even if they don't know that they're participating.
Yeah, you're right. Because there's movies, there's music, there's art, there's dancers that are not believers, but they're probably the best out there.
Yeah. All right, they gave us the wrap it up, so that means it's time to enter the control room.
Dun, 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 dun.
The control room. So you have to answer these questions with the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right?
First thing that comes to mind.
All right, let's get it. If you could collaborate with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you create together?
Basquiat. Basquiat has been like an influence just because it's not conformative. Like he didn't have like boundaries.
Yeah.
I felt like he just kind of went crazy. And
that's a good one.
He went like really cool. And I take a lot of, if you notice my art, you'll see a lot of influence.
Yeah, I do see. Yeah. I do see that. Okay. What's the most absurd criticism you've ever received about your work and how did you respond?
When they revert back to the first draft. It hardly ever happens.
Yeah.
But there has been a few where the first draft was the one.
Yeah.
Can we get that one?
And
to me, that's That's the most offensive thing that you could ever do, because you didn't even take any of the criticism that you
Yeah. You don't even agree with yourself.
I tried to give you the gem.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just go back to the first one.
Yeah.
Now, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right. And what specific problem do you have with John Keith?
Is he the John Keith?
John Keith.
Is he the one with the beads?
No, that's Tory Deshawn, great rapper.
Okay,
great person.
Body Wash, is that like?
No, that's Michael V's. I'm sorry. That's Mowgli the
Mowgli's.
iceberg.
Oh, okay.
That's
I like
Mowgli the
Mowgli.
iceberg. Yeah.
John Keith is he's the light skinned one.
Yeah. Kind of looks like Ice Spice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he needs a hug.
He does.
I just think that's it. I don't have a problem
Matter of
with
fact,
him.
Everybody who sees John Keith, hug him. You have the green light from RJV. He loves it and he needs it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think loving him.
Hug John Keith.
He needs, hug John Keith. Hashtag hug John Keith.
Hug John Keith. Thank y'all. This has been another episode of Creative Control. We love y'all. See y'all next time.